Welcome to the Purpose and Profit Club podcast for nonprofit leaders, mission-driven creatives, and social entrepreneurs. Get ready to stop dreaming and start doing. Here, ideas become action. We prioritize purpose and profit. You ready? Let's go. Today, I'm bringing on a very special guest, my friend and colleague, Caroline Griffin. She is the founder of Marketer on a Mission, and I'm sharing a LinkedIn Live we just did all about organic and paid marketing and how the two actually work hand in hand. One of the pieces that I loved that came out of this conversation that no one's talking about is the idea of nonprofits using lead magnets to grow their list, to grow their email subscriber base. So make sure you take some notes when we talk about that point. There are so many juicy ideas there. There are a couple of things that we mention in today's episode. The first is her digital audit. So I have a fun bonus. If you're interested in signing up for Caroline's digital audit, I will throw in my 100 done for you email subject lines and video mini training. This is perfect for nonprofits and social impact businesses. If you don't know what to say, how to get your audience to open emails or stop the scroll, you can use these for any sort of social caption or ad. I will throw that in. Just let her know that you're a friend of the podcast. Also, you'll hear me mention Amplify Social Impact. If you're ready to create a digital influencer program and work with influencers and ambassadors online and build your street team, sign up for my free masterclass. I'll give you a behind the scenes tour. You'll find out everything you need to know about that program and if it's right for your organization. I will also link to that in the show notes. All right, let's go. I'm Christina Edwards. We've got Caroline Griffin here. I'm going to kind of take the lead here on the questions and hosting. I am a business and marketing coach for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs and the founder of Splendid Consulting. You can come hang out with me over there on Instagram. And Caroline, I'm going to throw it over to you. I see some comments coming in. Yay.
Yay.
Intro.
Hey, y'all. I'm Caroline. I may know some of you, but not all of you. I run a firm called Marketer on a Mission. I've been doing this for 3 years now this month. Hooray. Helping nonprofits with all things digital marketing and communications. And my background is agency side before that and in-house with a nonprofit before that. So I've been in the sector for about a decade now, and I've kind of seen it from all sides. And we are testing out LinkedIn Live together for the first time today, which is super fun. We've been wanting to do this.
That's right. We shout out to my friend, Carrie Melissa Jones, who walked me through a lot of LinkedIn Live pro tips, but ultimately you just have to jump in and figure it out. So we're really excited to do it together. And to give people a peek behind the scenes, we're going to be covering the idea of organic and paid marketing. And I was thinking last night how they work together like peanut butter and jelly. Aww. So we're not going to good cop and bad cop it. We're going to talk about how they work together. And if people have questions, drop them into the chat. We'll go through our list of questions here today. But as we're talking, if you have questions, let us know. And we're recording this, so it's going to be on my podcast, The Purpose and Profit Club. So if you're like, wait, what did she say? Or I want to know more, then I will be sharing it on the podcast and you'll be able to hear it again.
I love peanut butter and jelly. As a joke, I was going to mail you some angel wings and I would wear some devil horns to represent organic and paid. But I was like, I don't want to give paid an even worse rep than it already has because it's not like that.
Yeah. I mean, so my daughter has this little book and it's like all things that go together. So it's like a fork and spoon, peanut butter and jelly. And that is definitely why it was on like one of those little toddler board books. That's why it was on my mind. But I think it's easy because I really stay in the lane of organic marketing. I really stay there. And that is my zone. I can run ads. It is not my zone, which is why I always am emailing you. But it doesn't mean I don't love ads. I run ads for myself too. It's just not my zone. So I'm not the person to say ads are bad. I think ads are great. Ads sell me stuff all the time. They solve my problems all the time. The cushion I'm sitting on was an Instagram ad. Like, so they're not a bad thing. So we're going to talk all about that today.
And I feel the exact opposite. I have so much appreciation for great organic content. It is not my zone of genius to figure out what to say every day or how to keep those relationships going. So peanut butter and jelly.
Yes, exactly. Awesome. All right. So let's dive into some of the questions that we had ahead of time. And again, let us know you're here. Type in the chat so we can see that. And All right, we're going to start with kind of like the basic, which is I think there are a lot of people, when I even say organic marketing, that might be confusing, or paid marketing. Like, let's kind of just define like the difference between organic and paid. And I guess I'll take organic.
Yep.
Organic to me is you're not putting any ad dollars behind it. So it might be your own platforms, anything on social media, you're putting your own content there, and organically you're going to have you're going to have the visibility that Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn gives you. The way that you can get some more growth and some more eyeballs on that organic unpaid content would be through engagement, shares, ambassadors, influencers. That's what I teach inside my program, Amplify Social Impact. So you can get some more eyeballs and some champions kind of raising your visibility organically without paying for ads. Caroline, just tell us about paid ads.
Yeah. And I'll add that email is obviously a huge organic engine. And then your website is another huge organic marketing engine.
Yeah.
And then anything where you're getting out your credit card and you're boosting a post, running an ad. The Google ad grant, of course, is free, but it's still technically paid advertising. Google's just providing you with the ad dollars. Maybe you're paying for some sort of affiliate partnership, or to run ads on somebody else's website, or to have a placement in their newsletter. Anything that's paid, though it can look very similar to organic content in some cases.
That's right. I'm just thinking too, organic maybe also take a little bit more time, right? So if you want to fast track something, you can put dollars behind it to fast track it. So it's like the different tactic to fast track it might be a Facebook ad or a Google ad, or even paying an influencer to post it. Those would all be paid, right? But organic, we can do some of those things through in kind, or we can do it through time, meaning you're going in there, you're engaging, you're going in there, you're developing relationships, and they both work really, really well together. All right. I think we did it. I think we defined it.
Oh, my client Finn is here. Hey, Finn.
Amazing. Hey, Finn, thanks for letting us know you're here. Awesome. So let's talk about maybe what ads or what kind of ads you see working for small shops. So this is something that comes up a lot that people come to me for, where they're like, all right, I want to run ads. I'm like, okay, hang on a minute. Like,
Yep.
Let's talk about, before you type in your credit card information, if you're ready, what are we looking for and what works best?
Yeah, I want to run ads all the time. And then even more challenging, I want to run ads to raise money right now, but I haven't done any of the legwork for that to be successful yet. And there's a lot of prep work and a lot of organic content that surrounds making a fundraising campaign with ads successful.
Yeah. So you're making me think of the idea of friction, which is something I teach a lot, which is, if you're going to have this amazing ad campaign and it's awesome, it's great, you get great click-throughs, the ad, the creative, the copy is great. And then it takes you to a place where you want somebody to donate or subscribe or sign up or take an action. And that is garbage because it's full of friction. It's full of lots of click-throughs. It's full of all sorts of things. Like, you weren't ready, right? So talk about, like, what do you like to see before you start spending $1 on ads?
So the first way that nonprofits can use ads with very little money to be very successful is to grow the fan base, grow the interest pool by raising awareness and generating some engagement with new people. When you're reaching new people and you just want eyeballs or people to watch a video about your work, or maybe check out a page on your website, that's so cheap. You can run meta ads and get a video view for 1 cent, or a click to your website for 15, 20 cents, or use the Google ad grant and get all of this exposure for free. So that's the cheapest way, and that's growing the pool. And then if you want people to take action, to do something, ads are most affordable and effective on a tight budget when you're retargeting your warm audience, or the people who are already sort of on your team through the organic content. So you're just reaching them in 1 or 2 extra places to make sure they're seeing your campaign 4, 5, 6, 7 times instead of just seeing the one email.
So that is the example of that is you were, you clicked on something on Instagram and suddenly that thing follows you all around the internet. Before
Totally.
you know it, you're like, yes, I've seen it 1,000 times, and you buy the cushion for your office chair.
Totally.
But
And you can be annoyed by that if you don't want the office chair anymore and you see it a million times, but no one's going to be annoyed if they see maybe a few emails, a couple of organic posts, and also an ad about a nonprofit campaign that's doing a wonderful thing.
And this is the piece where I feel like this is how they work together. So you were talking about the different organic channels, right? So we've got your website, we've got your social, we've got your email, which I think is a whole nother topic for another day. I love email. So if we imagine that there's this organization that is just trying to get that awareness, and then they're trying to maybe get their audience to take some sort of action, we know like the rule of 7 that the ideal customer needs to see your marketing image 7 times before they make a sale. I've heard that now being updated to like 16 times.
I was
right?
going to say
Yeah, like it's
our
not the rule of
attention
7.
span is shrinking
Yeah.
since then. Yeah.
So if we can use these tactics together, meaning we're using ads to help that visibility and make sure it gets in front of people, and we're using organic because you yourself are creating your own content on your own channels, boom, we're getting past that 1 or 2 touches very, very quickly in that way. So
Totally.
that's a great way. Yeah.
Yes, because as we all know from our own social media feeds, we're only seeing like the 10, 15, 20 accounts always popping up at the top based on what we've engaged with in the past. So
Yep.
your beautiful content is not showing up in a lot of people's feeds unless they're already your super fans. And you can spend a very little amount on a social media ad, for example, to make sure someone who follows you, has expressed interest in you, is going to see your campaign or your success story or whatever you're trying to share.
Exactly. I don't think I've ever really gotten annoyed with an ad. It's almost like I'm not thinking about it. If I'm thinking it doesn't appeal to me, I'm just going to scroll on by. So there's not really that. I feel like that's not really too much of an obstacle for organizations to worry about.
And
Really,
the more native it looks, people can barely tell the difference anymore. And that's very intentional by the platforms.
That's a great point of, how many people don't even realize they're looking at an ad, especially if they already follow the organization. They're just thinking it's their regular content, right? Being right there.
Totally.
Love that. So let's talk about some ways that a lot of organizations I know come to both of us and they realize that their donor base is a little, I'm going to say like top heavy in one demographic. And they're like, I want to build a younger audience. Where do they start? What do you think?
Well, the amazing thing about ads is you can target specific demographics, which you can't really like require that new people following your social accounts or signing up for your email list are young or have specific interests or anything like that. But you can do that with ads. And it's a really nice way to use a small budget intentionally instead of just trying to reach everyone. It's like our goal this year is to get more donors aged 35 and younger, and we are going to put our small ad budget behind that.
Do you think that that's possible for a smallish organization to put together an ad campaign with, I don't know how much money would they need to like figure out to really, that would be cold traffic, right? So this is like, let's really talk about that. Like, I'm going to play devil's advocate going, can they really convert new donors who are young, who are, hanging out on, I don't know, Instagram, TikTok, where are they hanging out?
It's the common mistake is just to go right to the ask.
There we
go.
If
they've never heard of you before, that is not going to work. But you can build a sort of funnel or layered experience with ads that mimics the relationship stages or process. So first you can show a young person an ad with a video about all the cool work you're doing that shows other young volunteers or speaks to their identity and how they want to see themselves. Then you can retarget people who watch that video with an ad for some sort of lead magnet, like a guide for young people to charitable giving, how to make the best use of a small budget as a donor, something that's going to appeal to their values and how they want to see themselves. Now you have their email address. Now you can continue to retarget them with ads for giving in the future. They're getting your emails. Maybe they're following you on social. You're dating and you need to take it one step at a time. And some of those things are free and some of them are paid.
Isn't that so true? Like you just said so much gold. So we're going to break it down. One, don't pop the question on the first date, which is the Instagram ad, because they are going to go, no, I'm not going to donate. I've never
That's like
heard
the
of you.
stage 5 clinger who is asking you if you want kids when you're getting your first drink together. Absolutely not.
Yes. Okay. So the first piece is like, we're just hanging out. We're just hanging out, right? And that is that awareness piece for anyone who is familiar with the funnel, right? That is that awareness piece of like, what does your organization do? You want to develop some relationships, some like trust factor with that. And then the next piece you said was the lead magnet, which I see a few organizations doing now. I'm very excited. I'm very excited when I see a lead magnet. So let's pause there and talk about like, what is a lead magnet? We know what it is, but how can nonprofits use lead magnets for this purpose, which is really, really smart to cultivate a younger audience?
This is one of my favorite uses of the Google Ad Grant and social media ads is create something of value to that person who you want to become a supporter. And maybe that is as specific as a millennial or a Gen Z, or maybe you want more women in your donor base or more men or whatever it is, something that they are really going to want, and advertise it. And it costs, in my experience with social ads, you can get an email address for just slightly more than $1 if you have a good lead magnet. That's very affordable for a high quality email contact.
So in a lead magnet, I see we have a question saying like, or a comment, please tell us more about lead magnets. So in our world, like I have several lead magnets. One of my top performing lead magnets is it's something of value that I'm giving you for free. So I have a social calendar that is an annual calendar. I do it every single year. It's at a glance. I use it to plan my own social content. It's very, very easy. It's all like social good holidays, right? So you might see me post about that on social media. You might see it as a pop-up on my website, right? That's a lead magnet in the for-profit world, right? So what Caroline's saying is you guys can do that too. Like you can create something of value to give a potential new customer subscriber person, right? At something to incentivize them to opt in. It is even similar. We see this, get 10% off or free shipping. E-commerce does this all the time. They're giving you something in exchange for your email address, which often is a discount, which gets me every time. I'm like, free shipping? Yes, I want free shipping. Here's my email address, right?
We're so used to exchanging our email for things that we want. And I'm not seeing enough nonprofits doing this. I'm actually presenting at NTC in a couple of weeks just on lead gen tips and examples from the wild, which were surprisingly hard to find. But
it's so hard.
Yeah, but some nonprofits have really cool quizzes running.
Yep.
I have yet to see a quiz that's like, what kind of donor are you? Or rank your charitable giving, or how to vet nonprofits to give to. Like, I think there's a lot of opportunity around helping people be better and more effective donors.
And I feel like I'm thinking of so many nonprofits that would be like, okay, but what would I give? I can't think of anything. And I would take a moment and like brainstorm and say, what is a 25-year-old who's going to be interested in your organization? Like, what questions do they have? What do they not know? That's one of the pieces that's always fascinating to me when I work with clients is like, wow, I had no idea about this issue. Or wow, I really had some blind spots there. Or I really didn't realize. Like, that is always like, you can turn that on its head and make it a fact sheet, some sort of video. You can make it, there are curiosities, questions that people have that you can answer in a lead magnet, right? And I think it's just a matter too, if you could even ask, your volunteers or ask some team members, like, what do you think about this? And when you are coming up with a lead magnet, and this is pro tip, is you've got to have a juicy name for it, right? You've got to have a sweet headline for it for people even to like read the thing that you're offering. And the way that you come up with a really great headline is you write down a list of 20, and 19 are usually pretty terrible and boring. And you find the good one in there. I always just write them all out, and it ends up being like a hodgepodge of different words. And then I find the golden one in there.
It's so true. I recommend thinking about a need you could meet for that specific person. So if you're trying to get more young donors and maybe they're young parents, I saw one nonprofit was advertising a pumpkin carving like printout with different designs for the kids, but it was related to their work. Or there was like a scavenger hunt that was also educating young kids about that issue. So you're giving the parents an activity and teaching them about your work. Yes.
You're reminding me of, okay, so it was like May of 2020, maybe even April. And we were like, in it with the pandemic and homeschooling. And there was a local arts organization that I go to and I take ceramic class at. And they had a campaign that was all coloring book sheets. And so they have these, the grounds are beautiful. It's like this historic home that's been converted into an art studio. And so they had them modified into coloring book sheets. And what a great opt-in that would be for people like who were like, oh my God, I'm out of ideas. My kid is watching hour 10 of TV now. So that's a great suggestion.
And you can use your Google ad grant to advertise offerings like that with those free ad dollars. And that way, if there's not a lot of search specifically related to whatever your cause is, but there is a lot of search for like coloring sheets for my kids.
Yep.
You can find people, you can get a little bit more creative with how you're getting in front of people.
I love that. So let's talk a bit about ad budget. Is there some sort of recommendation that you have, like a minimum to play ball is X and a really awesome budget is Y if you really want to make some things happen? Like, do you have some sort of benchmarks there?
I actually have pulled up in a tab. I don't know who here is familiar with the M&R annual nonprofit benchmarks, but the M&R 2022 benchmarks, and I'm going to see, I'm not sure if I can share this link, but if you Google M+R benchmarks, nonprofits, you'll see from last year, they have data on, based on your organization's size and your cause area, how much it should cost to acquire a donation with social ads, a lead with social ads. They also have email and other benchmarks in there. But I think the average cost to get a donation with a social ad was $86 last year. That's high. And from a search ad, like a Google ad, I think it was $46. They feel high, but it's like, how much does donor acquisition cost using other methods? A heck of a lot more than that.
And we know, like, let's just say it cost $86 to get that first gift, right? That is not one and done. Like, the entire point is we're bringing them into your world, and this is going to become a repeat donor, right? So there's a strategy behind it, right? It's not just that churn. I would pay $86 for a donor to be a long-term supporter. That would make sense to me. But I understand that a lot of people at first may go, ooh, to that number.
Yeah, but that's why the organic strategy, that's why you can't have the peanut butter without the jelly, or else you're just paying $86 for people with a high churn rate because they have no reason to stick around, or they don't feel valued.
Seen. Yep.
Yeah. But in terms of budget, for meta ads, for example, if you're trying to get donations, they recommend that you're spending at least $1,000 for like a 1 or 2 week campaign. But if you're just trying to generate leads for $1, you could spend a few $100s and get a few hundred new email contacts. Or if you're at the top of the funnel and you want people to watch a video and that costs 1 cent, you can spend $100 and a lot of people are going to see your video. So the higher you are towards the top of the funnel, the cheaper the ads will be.
So I'm going to break it down. So what you said is so helpful. So to get to the just awareness phase, right? So to get somebody who has never heard of your organization to get on their radar, that's going to be the cheapest way to create ads. And that's a really smart way to do it because that's that awareness phase. Then we're going to be like, oh, I kind of like what they do, right? That's starting to build the know phase, right? Where maybe you're offering them a lead magnet. Maybe you're getting them on your list somehow, right? There's some sort of, that's the next layer of it. That could be through retargeting, right? And then the most expensive ad would be the fundraising campaign, which it sounds like industry standard was about $86, right? For Facebook, right? That is that level. So if you're like, ooh, 86 is a lot, you can start top of funnel and there's a lot of value there. And then the organic marketer in me is just like sirening off. I'm like, okay, but don't do any of this until you are ready and you have your social networks and your email rocking and rolling. Because here's what I don't want to happen. You have an amazing ad campaign. They subscribe to your amazing lead magnet. And then you email them 4 months from now because you send out quarterly emails. Like, don't do that, right?
Total waste of money. The email welcome journey is an absolute must here. And I would say if your budget is on the smaller side, only use ads for those first few stages of the funnel.
Really smart.
Sharing videos, sharing beautiful success stories, advertising those lead magnets, and then rock your email marketing when you're actually running fundraising campaigns.
That's right. That's right. And if you feel like, okay, we're going to talk about a couple of different things, but I want to say, if you feel like, what is it I need to do on social? This isn't like, oh, I'm making you create content 7 days a week. That's not what I mean. But when that people land on your Instagram, it's updated, it's compelling, it's clear. When they hop on your email list, you're communicating with them regularly, right? When they make a donation, there is a system and process in place for them to literally feel seen and heard from you. Those are not heavy lifts. They're simpler than you think. So we'll kind of put a pin in it there. All right. So let's talk about data. And I want to talk specifically about your digital assessment. Tell us about that. And I feel like I'm someone who loves data, but also loves kind of like a gut check of like following my own little intuition on what I think my audience wants. So talk to us about data and then we'll see if we agree.
I love it. Okay. So my feeling being in the sector for 10 years is that very few nonprofit marketers or people who have marketing as one slice of your pie, which is so common, right? Don't have a good handle on the bird's eye view of how all of the organic and paid marketing tactics are working together, what's working, and how, or at what stage of the funnel is that piece kicking in and helping sort of like lead someone down the path over time.
Yeah.
Everyone's and I felt this way very much, that I was so busy churning out content, responding to needs, preparing for the next campaign, that I could not have told you. So how is like social influencing gifts at the end of the year versus email, and what the heck are people doing on the website, and how does that does it depend where they came from, how they're using the website, and all of these layers? So
that's so good. Like, what worked, what didn't, what do we need to stop doing? What do we need to double down on doing? Right. And I get it, because you're on the hamster wheel. Literally, by the time the campaign is over, you've already started another one, right? You're like in it.
And there's just the fact that the curse of knowledge is so real. And if you're thinking about your cause all day and you're running like a variation of the same campaign year over year, you're definitely missing opportunities to create the coloring book or do something that's a little bit out of the box to reach a new group or a new demographic. So I also saw a lot of agencies and firms offering digital audits to nonprofits, which were kind of useless because it's like a 30-page document that no one understands or knows what to do with. So I've created this digital assessment, which is very interactive. It's like, let's go into all of your accounts together, do some benchmarking, do some digging. I'll audit your donor or supporter journey by going through it myself. And we'll just see what's working, what's not, where are the untapped opportunities.
And I just linked to that in the chat. It's what I only want to see too. Like, I only want to see high level. I want to know what you as the expert sees and what the high level takeaways are, especially if you're going to end up giving this assessment. It's going to have more than one set of eyeballs on it. Like no one wants to go through a 30-page document. It's total overwhelm. It's total fatigue. And I think it's the piece of like, well, I don't even know what to do. It's too much. But if you're like, listen, here's what I'm seeing. We need to go over here and double down on this. And I love that you're spending all this time over here, but their ROI is not there, right? Or here are some low-hanging fruit opportunities. Like that is so valuable because the number one thing that I hear is I don't have enough time, right? And so it's like, this is how you get your time back.
And there has to be a source of truth for this to be effective. For most organizations, that's Google Analytics, which if you haven't updated to Google Analytics 4, that's something I'm helping organizations with right now too. And there's info about that on my website. But we need a place where we can see the organic and the paid channels together instead of thinking about them so separately. They really are supposed to play together and influence the same goals.
So smart. Yeah. It's making me think too about, I worked with an organization a while back and they had a very dense website and it needed to be dense, like pages and pages and pages and pages. I'll just leave it there on that. It needed to have all the content. And one of the things that we looked at was the budget's not there to update the entire website. And the Google Analytics was able to say, what are the most trafficked? Where are people, like, where are they going? How much time are they spending there? And the number was 7. We only needed to update 7 pages. Like right then, that was the lowest hanging fruit, the most bang for our buck. And the ROI there was really, really strong because we just didn't have the budget to, I want to say like 50 pages. There were so many pages. And so it's like not having that Google Analytics dashboard, which by the way, I'm like, I don't want to read that. I want you to tell me, I don't want to read that. You tell me what I need to know from that. And then I can ideate on what we need to change from the front end, right? And it's such a smart thing, but it's, I think, a couple of different reasons why people don't look at it. One, it just does seem clunky and overwhelming, that Google in general, like Google Ads, analytics, all of it, meta ads seem clunky and overwhelming. Yeah. So it's really helpful to have like a trained eye say, here's what I'm seeing in this.
Yeah, because a lot of it doesn't matter that much. And you just need to know what to look for in those platforms. And thank goodness our brains work differently and we like different things. Because if I were to help an organization like grow their social media ambassador program, which is one of your areas of genius, I would be like a deer in headlights.
It is funny. It's like, it is the yin to the yang, but yeah, I just see, so we're talking about with the lead magnets, what organizations aren't really doing, but is accessible and out there. And for me, it's influencers and digital ambassadors. That's where I get so fired up on, because an influencer can just post something and I already know, like, and trust this influencer. And so if they tell me this is good, this, set of earbuds, this layup, whatever, I already trust them. I trust their aesthetic and I believe them. And the tipping point for me to take action is very, very quick and easy. I'm already on, listening to their content, whatever. I trust them. And I'm like, why aren't nonprofits doing this? So yes, that's a bulk of what's inside my course, Amplify Social Impact, is how do we do it? The number one thing people say once they're like, okay, I'm interested, I want to build a street team, I want to work with ambassadors, then they're like, where do I find them? What do I do? And I'm like, I get it. Like, where do you find them? What do you do? I see some thumbs up. Yes. So it's like, we search hashtags, we search geotags, but really before we go cold, because that is cold, this is like the most magical thing. I was on a call last week and we were talking about this very topic of like, well, what influencers could I possibly know? And then we're talking about it. We're doing some brainstorming and the ED says, oh, wait, I know someone. They have like 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I'm like, that is because everybody knows an influencer at this point. Everybody does. Oh. You're either due or you're one removed. And if we can find one, it just like trickles out from there. So that is a process I teach. I'm going to drop in a link because we have a special for you. We're offering a special. If you're interested and you're like, I want to find out more, there's a webinar on this link about the course. You can get $200 off the program when you join. Yay. And we've got some fun surprises showing up. So I will drop that in. But yeah, I'm all about that because it makes so much sense to me. And it also is, yes, there is an upfront lift on time, but I think it compounds. So you start your digital ambassador program with 2 people, with 5 people, but you keep adding to it. And then at some point you're like, we have 50 people in it. Like, of course you do, because you've just compounded it in the same way that you retain those donors.
And I'll just add, in terms of organic versus paid, if we think about our own shopping behavior as an example, or giving behavior, I'm much more likely to make a spontaneous donation if an influencer I know, like, and trust is promoting that organization or that campaign than I am to respond to an ad. And I've done that multiple times. If I already know I want to buy something or donate and I'm already seeking that out, then an ad might be more effective, or I might go right to your website. But if it's not already on my radar, that organic tactic is actually going to be much more effective.
That's a really great distinction. I like to think that piece is where people can really fast track it. So when my friend Muriel shares a fundraiser that she's passionate about, and she's like, hey friends, this is what we're trying to do, I know, like, and trust her. I'm going through that funnel in 3 minutes, right?
Totally.
Whereas if I see an ad for the first time from that organization, you're probably going to need to work with me a little bit, and that's going to take a little more time.
Yeah. And if you give because Muriel shared it, then that organization still needs to use email, social, web to nurture that relationship with you, so you come back again.
100%. See, peanut butter and jelly. It's true. So I think we've kind of touched on this. And if anyone has questions, keep dropping them in the chat. But are there any common mistakes that you see that organizations are making in their marketing strategy that we haven't already mentioned that we should cover?
Skipping the first half of the funnel and going right to asking all the time whether
going
it's
right for the proposal.
we see that all the time. Sometimes just asking people to join your email list works. And I have run ads for clients where it's just like, sign up for our updates, and they're getting lots of high quality contacts that way. But generally, I think you want to be a little more creative. And I think that the mistake is thinking about yourself, your organization, like sharing what you do instead of creating something that is going to be really helpful for that person in their own life as a generous person. And then the one other thing I can think of is not enough investment in ad dollars for just sharing success stories. I rarely see organizations just putting like $50 or $100 or $200 behind. We just made a beautiful video or a beautiful blog post, or we have these gorgeous images that showcase our work in action. That it is so worth putting a little bit of money behind that content. You've already done the work to source it or create it. And if people are starting to see those once a month, they will grow to know, like, and trust you through that content.
That is social proof. Like, we constantly need to see social proof. What you're doing works. The problem you solve, your programs work. And those success stories help anchor us in through story, right? Through identifying, instead of just like the blanket, our programs work and here's the output. No, anchor us into one specific story. I like to tell my clients they should have like a little digital library they can pull from, right? Of specific stories like Isaiah, and talk about his story, what his before and after, or whatever, that piece was that you can pull from. Maybe when you're pitching individual donors in person, or maybe when you're creating social content. I think to piggyback on that, the other piece is, don't just tell his story once, tell Isaiah's story multiple times. And I don't mean tell it every Tuesday. I mean, tell it initially, use some ad dollars, right? To boost up that visibility. Tell it again. There are lots of people who still didn't see it or came into your funnel after you posted it. This ends up being these pillar pieces.
I think when we talk about repurposing content all the time, people think about web or blog, email, and social post, and they forget about paid and layer. Like Isaiah also makes a fantastic social ad or page that you can point your Google ad grant to or something.
Exactly. Lori, I see your comment. We're gonna probably after the stream, I will go in there and make sure you get the link correctly.
Oh, thank you. I'm also going to drop a link to those benchmarks that I referenced earlier for budget in case people want to take a look at those.
Yeah, let's see, before we wrap up, I want to share a couple of mistakes that I see organizations make. And one would be, and this is a shift, like as a marketer for me to say this, but I mean it, spending too much time creating your own content. So if I look at your marketing strategy as like a pie chart, a lot of organizations are spending way too much time creating their own content, like going into Canva, sourcing the graphics, getting the photos, typing the captions, scheduling it out, way too much time. I would rather you spend some time on that and a lot more time on what Caroline is doing, where you're getting outside of your bubble, right? Making sure you're running some really targeted ads and building relationships with the ambassadors and with influencers. Again, getting outside of your bubble and building some awareness through their audiences. So basically leveraging other audiences, whether it's influencers or whether it's Facebook's your ad demo that way. And then you have the pillar content. That content's still happening, but it's much, much quicker. And these other aspects of stepping outside of just you, it's like kind of like you writing a blog and then telling no one about the blog. I don't want you to do that. I want you to write the blog and blast it everywhere and then go build some relationships with people who will include it in your newsletter, who will include it on their Twitter, like include it everywhere. So it starts to get that like ripple effect. So that would be one of the big things that I see a lot of organizations just not doing, is that they're stressed out and they're burned out with marketing. And that's because they're siloed off doing it, when I'm like, the sweet spot is getting outside of like your platform, your screen.
And if there's an organic social post that performed well relatively for your, whatever the platform was, turn it into an ad. The content can be the same.
Yes, exactly. And that's the data piece, is we forget to like look back and go, actually, what in the last quarter worked?
Yeah.
And whether it's, do I want to reshare it? Do I want to replicate it? Is there some sort of theme there that I want to bring forward into the next quarter? Like, you shouldn't start all over from zero again. Like use that data to help inform what it is you want to do differently in the future or similarly, right?
Totally.
All right. I see some good comments coming in. Thank you. It's good to see interaction in the chat on this very first LinkedIn Live. Any final questions, y'all just drop in. And Caroline, I want to ask, like, for digital marketing, do you feel like there is a nice to have versus a must have? Like, and maybe we'll have that kind of finalize our questions of like, what do you feel like these are your musts, these are your non-negotiables, and these are nice. These are the next level.
I feel like a lead gen program is a must, because we know that email is the number one channel for fundraising, for action, for getting started and maintaining relationships with people. So continuously growing that list with people who make sense for you is a must. And I feel like 10% of nonprofits are doing that.
I think that's being kind. I'm sorry, but that's being kind.
We're working on it, y'all.
I know. Listen, it is why I ended up building this email marketing course, because of this. Is what I realized is we're going to give another funnel example, but I love for your social media actually to be a funnel for your email list. So yeah. I love for every nonprofit to think about their social media. It would be great if the follower goes from follower to donor straight there. That's a great win to have, right? They click the donate button or whatever. But I love your social network to actually generate your email subscribers, right? So you use that for people to opt in, because the money is made on your email list. Yes. It's so much easier to fundraise on your email list than it is through a marketing campaign. And maybe we should just dial in and talk about that for a tiny second. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I have a client right now with more than 500,000 Twitter followers.
Wow.
And they have never done anything to try to get those people over to email. And I mean, they're brilliant at the work that they do out in the world, but they had no idea that they could run ads just targeting those 500,000 people, saying, come on over to our email list to
That's
get
right.
this exclusive content or to get more timely updates from us or whatever however we're sort of framing the hook. But
Yeah.
I don't know many organizations who are doing anything to pull those folks from social over to email.
Yeah, exactly. And I was reading an article this morning about Twitter, and it was like, it may become a pay to play platform, right? To pay to actually have your content show up on the feed. And it was like, it really underscored for me the importance of making sure that your email list, that is an asset. That is something that you own versus your Facebook account, right? Or your Instagram followers or your Twitter followers. That's theirs. That's theirs, right? So it really is like the two really want to work together, and you want to make sure you're bringing your number one, continuing to grow your audience on social media, right? And then number two, funneling them over to your email list so that you can nurture them that way.
Totally.
Awesome.
The one other thing that I feel like is a must these days is having someone outside of your organization audit your donor journey. And that is not just making a gift. Like when I do this, I'm spending 2 weeks and I'm tracking all of the communication that I receive after I make the gift. And I'm also thinking about all the ways I could have got there in the first place and what did those different avenues look like, because you're in it every day. You simply can't, like your brain can't catch every little technical snag or typo or confusing messaging because you're just too deep in it. And every time I do this for an organization, there's like some glaring issue.
And when you're in it, your brain is correcting it, right?
Yeah.
Your brain is like, oh, but they already knew about that thing. They already knew no, they didn't. They didn't know about that program, or they didn't know about that aspect, or they didn't know. So that is so smart. That is like, that's the piece we were talking about earlier of like, you're not really sure of your own blind spots, and that's okay. Like that's the value of bringing in somebody with a fresh set of eyes and a very clear goal in mind to like help you through this process.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, okay, let's see. I see a question. Is there a percentage of social media followers who we can expect to give us their email addresses with proper outreach? I love this. What should we realistically aim for? Okay, Caroline, what do you think?
If you're running an ad campaign targeting, say, all of your Facebook page and Instagram followers, which you can do really affordably, I think you could expect a typical like 5% conversion rate, depending on how many followers you have. And if you're running a great campaign, you can expect to acquire those email contacts for between $1 and $3.
And if you weren't running a campaign, I want you to think of it this way, Monica. You can think about it like this. Let's say, let's going to keep some round numbers. If you have 1,000 followers and you're just posting like organically on your feed and on IG stories, and you're like, join our email list for this lead magnet, right? Remember, all 1,000 are not seeing your content, a small percentage. So your conversion rate's going to go even smaller. And that's okay. I just want you to be aware of it. If you're like, well, one person opted in. All right, well, let's see how many people did that post actually reach. So you want to make sure that I would put that up in stories regularly of like, what is the value thing? Not just subscribe to our newsletter for updates. No one wants to subscribe for updates, right? What is the valuable thing that they're going to get? You can do it that way. And if you have relationships with people, everybody has those like Instagram or Facebook followers that you can always count on for engagement. And maybe they're not on your list. You know, those people, like they always are like, you guys are awesome. I would DM them and I would be like, hey, Monica, we just released this video and it's going to be sent out next week, all about XYZ. If you'd like to join our email list, here's a link to sign up. Like you could message those people that way and reach them directly. So that would be another way to work around it organically.
There are actually some cool tools you can use to automate that DM process too, if that's something you want to dabble with. But yeah, I think a 5 to 10% conversion rate is a good goal for starting. And the nice thing about those ads is because those people are on the platform, Meta, for example, can reach every single one of them with your ad.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. They're already in your world. So that's
Yeah.
really smart. Yeah. All right. So where can everybody find you, ask you more information? Give us all the things, Caroline.
I live on LinkedIn. Please send me a message, connect with me there. I have a monthly newsletter that you can either get in your email inbox or subscribe for that on LinkedIn. And my website is marketeronamission.work. And I have info on the digital assessment there, Google Analytics 4 setup, and some other services as well.
Awesome. And we'll link to all of that. And you guys can find me. I am on LinkedIn and I'm also on Instagram at Splendid Consulting. I'd say those are the two places I like to hang out, or you can find me at splendidatl.com.
And she has an amazing podcast.
Oh my gosh, the podcast. Yes. The Purpose and Profit Club podcast. Yes. I'm still working that in. Yes. It launched this year. So I think my brain is like, yes, thank you. Thank you. And yeah. So thank you all. Let's see. Finn says, will this training remain on LinkedIn? Yes, I think. What do we think?
It's our first time running one of these lives. My understanding is that this will live on LinkedIn. So if you go back to the event or go to one of our pages, you should be able to find the recording.
Yes. And I will say this is dropping on the Purpose and Profit Club podcast on Thursday. So very quickly, it will be edited and out there, and you can listen to it on your walk. And yeah, and then just message us if you have more questions.
We're all just trying these things out, you know?
And I wanted to say, like, episode 1 of my podcast was minimum viable. And it is, what is the minimum viable thing I need to do to get my thing out into the world? And that is what we did here. And sometimes I was telling Caroline in our green room here that sometimes it is getting a partner to do it with you, because you're like, oh, I haven't done this thing for the first time. So whether it's LinkedIn Live or whether it's running a certain campaign or whether it's putting a IG Live out there or a piece of content, you at some point, you just got to take the leap, right? And so that is literally what we're doing in real time. And we want to empower you to do the same.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, thank y'all. Thanks y'all so much. Okay. I saw some thumbs up. Awesome.
Yay.
And maybe we'll make this a series and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Okay. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Like what you're hearing and want to take this to the next level? I want to invite you to go to purposeandprofit.club to watch my free class. In there, I will tell you the number one thing that's keeping your nonprofit or social impact business stuck and what to do instead. Go to purposeandprofit.club. Think you've reached out to everyone in your network? Are you out of ideas to get noticed and get funded? I hear you. That's why I'm giving you a chance to steal my prospect list. Yes, you can generate leads for your nonprofit or impact-driven business. Grab my mini training and list delivered to your inbox instantly. Go to splendidcourses.com/prospect.